Good morning, Jobman champions, and welcome to another Lunch and Learn series. We've got an exciting one today. We're going to be covering contacts, staff, and kiosk interactions. So this is a good one to get done early with your software. If you haven't seen the first two webinars, I highly recommend you jump on our YouTube channel and have a look for those, some general navigation and accounting and cloud file storage setup. The next part to that is obviously getting your contacts into the software and your staff so that you can start utilizing the processes inside Jobman. You can see all our previous webinars and documentation videos, help videos, so much information we put out there on the YouTube channel. So I highly recommend you jump on there and subscribe. So what are we covering today? Contacts, staff, and kiosk, which will be a brief explanation of our CRM and how that works and where that interacts with the software. Easy ways to add contacts and staff to get you up and running nice and fast. Staff roles and permissions, which I think are a really important foundational understanding aspect of the software. And kiosk user login and functions. So by the end of today's session, we hope that you'll have a good understanding of the Jobman CRM and how to enter those staff and contacts into the system. If you don't utilize some of the automations, still plenty of ways to get that data into Jobman. You'll have a good understanding of those roles and permissions. The difference between office users and kiosk users, because that's one we certainly get a lot of questions around, and I think it's important because that's how the licensing is based for the software. So it's good to know where those differences are, how to set up a kiosk user login, and understand some of the function availability for kiosk users. So we'll definitely be covering off in a live demonstration today so that you can see this in the actual software and how to set up and interact with those options. So the big thing, I guess, to kick us off is understanding our CRM. Jobman has a good functioning CRM. A CRM, for those of you who are not aware, is a customer relationship management tool. Essentially, it's the first point of contact. Jobman is an ERP, so we run end-to-end for your business. And the first point of any business transaction is, of course, interaction with the customer or client. At this point, they're not yet a lead or an opportunity. They're simply people we want in our database so that we have the availability to move them forward into a lead or utilize them, or they're a recurring client that we can come back to. We can see job values. We can email in and out of the software to our clients so we can handle some basic marketing. And then, of course, if you are connected to one of our supported accounting platforms, how that then interacts with the syncing. The staff roles and permissions are very granular in Jobman, which is by design and by intention. Essentially, we understand that every business is slightly different, and how much information you share from the software is completely up to you. So the idea being that it's we still want everyone to be transparent and digitally on the same page, but there may be certain features or areas of the software that are not relevant to a particular staff member's role. So we don't necessarily want them to see that part of the software. So Jobman is extremely good at allowing you to really dictate what areas they can both see and also interact with, and what level that interaction might be. You might give them the ability to edit, for example, tasks or inventory, catalog settings, but you might not allow them to update. So you set it up, but they can't touch it. You can also turn off certain areas of the software around visibility. So if you don't want them exporting your availability chart items, for example, your catalog with all your pricing, you can switch that feature off. They can still see it and use it to do their job for their purchase ordering, but they can't export that information out of the software. So it's really designed to allow for maximum customization for our clients to best how they want the team to use and see the software. The main difference between Office and Kiosk users is, up until now in the webinars, you would have seen me utilizing what's called the Office user role. And that's the main project level of your staff. So it might be the owners of the business, project managers, estimators, purchase orders. It's essentially anyone that needs a username and login so they can see the front end of the software and then interact with different areas of the software, such as the CRM, lead management, job management, scheduling, purchase ordering, invoicing, etc. Kiosk users are then the rest of your staff, and they get a PIN code It's a separated application login, so they won't see everything you see. Even by default, we cut it down so it's a separate area, and they will only be able to interact with what you've given them permission to do. So the most common example of that is you've got staff in your manufacturing process, and let's say you've got assemblers. They have a kiosk login. They get an agenda screen. From that agenda screen, they're receiving their tasks automatically from Jobman. This is how they log into the software. So this is how they log their time against those operations. This is the key foundation of then building that live reporting data. It's also how they move tasks forward in your software. So I know we'll be covering workflows and operations and tasks in an upcoming webinar very shortly, because it is very foundational to the software. But this is basically how the staff and team interact with your software, which means you don't have to be the one continuously moving things forward. Once you've sort of set them up, you can push them out. The team then gets involved, whether they be Office users or Kiosk users, and they are the ones who are able to then interact with the software, keep processes moving, and do the things you need them to do to be able to do their job. There's also a lot of visibility in the kiosk mode. They have access to things like job specs. They can put in job alerts if you give them permission. You can give them permissions to access your inventory. So if you have a store person in your business who controls that, there is an availability there for them to be able to see inventory so they can advise the team when things are available. Purchase order receival, and probably one of the most important functions alongside operational time measuring and completion of tasks, is the ability to pick list raw materials from the kiosk inside jobs. So that we'll go into all that later, but that really is how the software runs end to end, and how the people involved in your business can utilize Jobman without having access to all your sensitive data. So I'm going to jump in now and run through what we've just discussed live on the software, so you can see where to go to interact with these things, how to set them up, and give you a good understanding of the best uses for these options here. So we're back on our lunch and learn organization. So the first thing is contacts and our CRM. So inside our contacts area, we have two foundational areas as part of this. One is the contact list itself, and the second part is what we call contact type. So this is a fast way to break down your different contacts into different areas so that you can filter them really quickly. For example, if I filter by supplier, it will only bring up a list of my suppliers, and I can separate even my large list of contacts into many different types. If you've got commercial clients or residential clients, etc., these can be separated in here. Now, it's worth noting that if you with us for webinar 2 and you connect it up to your accounting software, Xero or MyOb, your contacts and your staff will all have pulled through automatically. However, I do want to cover what happens if you don't currently connect to one of our accounting services, or you choose not to. Or you may have an existing CRM, for example, and you want to bring that data in. So there's a couple of really good options here. The first one is the ability to import your contact list. So if you have a large file with many contacts, you can bring those in directly into the software. And we have a CSV sitting here ready to go. So you simply download this CSV, save it to your desktop, copy and paste in all the data in the relevant fields, and then import that directly into Jobman. And there's even some smarts around here. So if rather than you have to go through and set up your contact types and sources and payment terms, if that information is already available as part of that import, you can simply tick on these 3 boxes here, and that will bring that information in and create those new contact types for you. That's probably the easiest and fastest way of bringing your contacts into the system. The second way you can do it, of course, outside of the integration and sucking them all in, is we can create them manually. So don't feel like if you're just trying the software and you're just starting to get into it, you just want to sort of get a feel for what's going on. You can come in here and you can just start creating a contact, link them up to an existing type. If you've got a type in there, you can put in some detail. Keep in mind, your contact management tool is the contacts you do business with. So in the majority of cases, this will be the company. And then inside the company, the advantage of Jobman is we can put multiple contact persons. So the company, for example, might be BCG Building, and then you have Dave, who you deal with for the accounts, Sandra, who you deal with for the architectural work, project managers, etc. You can have as many contact persons in the software as you like. If the contact is a person, so you're selling directly perhaps to the public, or you're doing some residential manufacturing, you can simply copy the details above, and that will bring that straight into the software. So now you've got some contacts in the software. What can you do with them for a customer relationship tool? It's worth noting that a lot of areas in the software have really good dashboard reporting, so you can sort of tell who in your business is adding, entering, changing things all the time. And this is really important later down the track for like lead management, job management, see where people are up to. But as part of that contact, you'll have their information built in the system now. So this is always referable by your team. We have links to Google Maps. So if you're, again, sales or check measure or install, you can access this map, click on it, set up your route, and Google will take you out to where you need to be. Like I said, you can have multiple contact people and set a default. This is extremely useful because Jobman has an emailing in and out client. So as part of building those opportunities before they come leads, perhaps you want to start some conversations, keep that information in one place so everybody knows what's going on. If you have a contact and multiple contact people, this gives you the opportunity to obviously not just email the company themselves, but multiple people as part of this. This is also where you start to get your file structures come in if you connect up to Google Drive or OneDrive or Dropbox. So there'll be a nice contact file there. So if they reach out to you from a website and you want to say some information that they've presented to you, this is where you can do it. And now it's there available for the team. So that's your contact management area in Jobman. It's worth noting at this point that if you have connected up to an accounting platform, these contacts will now remain synchronous. So what that means is if you make a change here, it will update in your accounting software. If you make a change in the accounting software, it'll make a change in Jobman. But it is worth noting that your accounting software is not a CRM platform. So it is not designed to house a lot of information, unlike Jobman. So we recommend going forward, once you have connected, put your contacts in Jobman and then let them filter up, because all your accounting software really cares about is one person, and that's the person that pays the bills, or you pay the bills to. So they have limited fields around that. They don't really deal with contact types. This is all important information for you to be able to record and report on down the track. So that's your CRM, how to bring in contacts, a couple of good options there. Staff is a very similar concept. So staff, again, if you connect it up to your accounting software, these will pull through. You can import them again, CSV. Tips and tricks are always fun. CSVs themselves are designed to be very particular. It's how software interacts with information coming into basically, we're aligning fields with where that information should sit in the system. So the headings are really important. And that's why we provide you with the actual templates themselves. So you can just pull them out, either copy and paste in the data or fill it out and then quickly bring it in. So long as those headings remain unchanged, you should have no problems. If you do run into a minor issue, Jobman will bring up some really good error messaging to help you there. So again, we can create staff directly, we can import them, or they will have come in from your accounting software. Now, this is where we get onto the second part of today's webinar, which is the understanding of staff types and staff permission roles. So that's broken into two areas into our software. The first one is staff types. So staff types is basically a very quick and easy way to separate your staff into the two categories. Are they office users or are they kiosk users? There's a layer above what we call an office user, and that's an administrator. By default, as the owner of the software, when you signed up, you will be an administrator. It's basically a supercharged role. It gives you access to everything. You have complete power of the software. Any changes and new abilities or features we bring into the software, you will see them and you'll be able to interact with them and see if they're applicable for your company. There's no like limit to administrator versus office user outside your user licensing. So if, for example, you picked up the basic package, you'll come with 2 office users and 5 kiosk users. Those office users can both be administrators, or you could have one as an administrator, one as an office user. If you picked up 6, same thing, you could have up to 6 administrators. Just be warned that if you have all your office users as administrators, they can see everything in the software. So in today's example, I'm just going to add in a staff member today just so you can see how that comes in. There's two options here. One is if Deb, for example, in this instance, needs to be an office user for my software, I can simply click this and Jobman will automatically send them an invitation to log into that email address. So they do the same process you did at the beginning. They'll accept the invitation, they'll set up password, and then they have login access to the software. So that can be automated very quickly. Again, you can enter some details for them, job titles if you want some differentiation. By default, your time zone will come from your organization. So when you signed up, what time zone you chose. However, staff can be given individual time zones. So if you have locations or you utilize Jobman over multiple areas, which is very common, we have companies with factories and warehousing in many different states or countries even, you can set their own individual time zone so that when they're entering their timesheets and payroll, it makes a lot of sense. We won't go into pay rates today. That's a future thing. By default, again, all of your staff will be linked to the public holiday group that you started with. However, again, you can put them in a different area so that tasks won't be scheduled based on that area. And then the most important thing from here is then roles. So I can put in, I think as a standard, you get several roles built into the software. This is where we differentiate between our staff members. So in our example where we've got multiple office users, imagine we had an office user that was in charge of customer service relations, estimating, sales team, and an office user that you also need to have access who is involved with your job management, scheduling, for example. Utilizing roles will allow me to separate what they can see in the software, and that's what we're going to cover now. So I'm going to create Deb. If you didn't choose the automation to invite to log in, this is where you can always come back and log in. It's worth noting one final point here before I move on. By default, all office users licenses come with a free kiosk for themselves as well. So the software itself, as I mentioned in the first webinar, is designed to be completely user-friendly on mobile, laptop, tablet. So as an office user, you can come in and you can see the screen on your phone, manage your business through your phone. Amazing. However, some companies, they certainly like to test the roles and permissions for their kiosk. So you can set up your own kiosk linked to your office user account and test and see that functionality in the scaled down version as well. So you're not going to chew up a kiosk user license by doing that, just to let you know. So that's a nice tip and trick there. So where do we manage and control our roles? Settings, staff, roles. Now you'll notice there's a couple in your software ready to go, which just gives a pretty good breakdown. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just open up this office user just to give you a bit of a feel for how, how detailed this level can be. So by default, we've set some what we call standard role options in here, but everything you see in here is completely editable and updatable by you. So if, for example, Deb was involved in the customer service team and the sales, as aforementioned, one of the things I might need her to do is both lock and unlock target dates for jobs that we're bringing into the system that have won from leads. So I might turn that on for Deb. However, if I don't want to do that and I want to be in charge of that, I can simply remove that permission by unclicking these. And you can see there is a very vast amount of differentials you can put into each of your staff roles. So do I want Deb to be able to view the costing, overhead, wastage, and profit in her estimations? Or do I simply want Deb to estimate, come in, enter that information, and then if there needs to be change like discounts applied or that, I'm the only one who can see those and I can have a process around that. So it is a very, very, very granular system, which is awesome. Now, the key with this is obviously we don't want you to spend hundreds of thousands of hours running through. You'll find that most of the original role settings are very good. From there, it's just a matter of tweaking and playing around. By default, the administrator has everything turned on, so you have access to all the settings. And by default, most of the office user application roles will not have access to any of that, but you can change that. So another good tip here is if you've got two employees in your business that have similar roles, but there is a separation of what you want one to be able to do, rather than have to create a new role and say office user Deb, office user Sam, office user Tim, what we can do is we can create the office user role, and then I can copy this, which will come in with all the permissions that I've already set up, and then tweak a couple and save the name to be a more specific role. For example, office user sales estimator. And then anyone I apply that role to in my business will have those permissions. which is really good. Inside here as well is also where you'll find the standardization of the kiosk user roles. To begin with, we keep them fairly simple. We call them office worker. We give them very limited access, bearing in mind that they will not see the front end of your software. They have a separated view, which is something we'll go into in a future webinar and cover, once you've got some information coming through the system, how that will then interact with the kiosk role, and off they go from there. But again, you can really choose and narrow down how much or how little you want them to be able to do, even in the kiosk mode, even though it's a cut down version as well. So that leads to the second part, is how do I then invite my staff to this kiosk mode? This is amazing functionality in the software. It's very easy. Common question we get is, does Jobman have an app? Can I download it onto my staff's phones? The short answer is yes, Jobman is an app. No, it's not available on a web store. So you can't go onto to Google Play Store or Apple Store and download it. Why? Because we don't really want you to pay for something that we offer as part of our software service. We want to be in control of it, and we see no reason to have to pay a third party for you to be able to do that. So it is, however, an app. And the beauty of our kiosk mode app is it's a web-based app, which means we have full control over it. We can do amazing things like have our own internal notification systems, which then let our team know when we're assigning them tasks. And we are not limited in any way, shape, or form by what we can do with the software. And that's an important one. Apps, generally speaking, in that mobile sense, are cut down versions of software. They are not fully functional. You've probably seen it. You've gone into your banking app and it's gone, oh, you can't update your details. Please go to the web page, which is really annoying. So we don't ever want you to be limited by that factor. When we create applications, we want them to be fully encompassing. So with that said, it's extremely easy then to get that information to your team so they can actually have it on their phone and saved, or onto a tablet, etc. So all we do is we set this kiosk pin, we hit create, and two things are going to happen. Number one, there's a nice link here. This is the specific link to the kiosk mode for your organization. This is very important. This isn't just a general thing, because we need to link your kiosk users to your organization. So we need to give them access and a temporary pin. So inviting Deb to become a kiosk member of this organization is very easy. I simply copy this link, paste it into an email, and then paste those 4 numbers, shoot that link to Deb. Now she can, if your plan for your company is to have your kiosk users use their phone, simply open up that email on your phone, click the link, hit the generate the pin, and then Jobman will immediately ask them to set their own pin. So you don't have to worry about that going forward. They're under control. They can pick a pin that they will remember. Now that's on their web browser. If you are an iOS user and you've opened it in Safari, or an Android user and you've opened it in Mozilla or Google Chrome, you simply save that to home screen, and a little pretty application will appear on their home screen, and that is now their Jobman kiosk app. So that's I wanted to make that distinction fairly clear, because it is an extremely common question we get. Yes, it is an app. Yes, it will be on their phone. Yes, they can access it. Yes, it's really easy. They just open it, and they'll most phone companies or tablets have an ability to remember, so they won't even have to enter their PIN all the time. And they're whacking their pin and off they go for the day. Start logging in against tasks, start viewing that information, etc. So it is extremely easy to get your team involved with the software. As I said, any other Office users in the software, you can simply invite to log in. Jobman will shoot them through an email, and off you go. Now, it has been asked why we don't simply do a kiosk send as well. And that's simply because there's no requirement in the software for your staff to have email addresses. Obviously, the majority of your Office users will probably have a company email address, cam@jobman.com. But you might have temporary staff that come in, contractors. There's a lot of functional use for the kiosk, which can be really easy to set up and use, and have them measure their time and see all their results, without actually, needing for them to have, like, they're not part of your staff rates, so they won't have company email addresses for etc. So as long as they have a personal email address, you can shoot it through to them, Easy, copy the link and send it through. It also means if you're utilizing the kiosk mode for tablets for an area rather than have it on their phones, or you want to set it up on what's called like an actual kiosk itself, like a factory-based kiosk, like an Integra system, something like that. This means those systems don't have an email; they're not a person. So you can copy that link browser, paste it into that software, and now that itself becomes the kiosk, and you can have them log in. CNC machines quite often these days have web-based browsers built with them. So same thing, you can shoot this invitation through, they can set it up, and now that'll be the kiosk mode for your CNC. Now, because I don't have a lot of data in this site yet at the moment, what I want to quickly do is I just want to show you what that will look like for the kiosk mode, just to get a bit of an understanding of what they'll be able to access. So I'm just going to jump into another organization I've got here, and I'm going to open up and show you that kiosk mode in its effect, so you can get a really good understanding for what that's going to look like. So if I open this up, this is what your team will see. Again, you can invite kiosk mode to computer users, mobile user, tablet. It's very, very functional. So if I come in here and set this up, enter my PIN, no problems. And then this is a all-encompassing kiosk mode. So because I'm an administrator of my own software, I get to see everything. This is where you get to make those decisions, and that's where that role functionality was so important around what they can and can't do. So by default, I think contacts, leads, jobs, and tasks, which are assigned particular tasks, are sitting there for them. But this is their interaction with the software. It's really easy. They won't see all those agenda screens. They'll only see the agenda screens you link them to. We'll go into all that later down the track. But essentially, if my role in your business is CNC cutting, I would probably only see the machining area of this software. And then I have the list of tasks in here which I can access. And this is how easy it is then for them to interact with the software. They come in, they can create alerts if needed. If you connected up your cloud file storage or using your SharePoint to NAS, for example, this is where they can see those files. This is where we're starting to see where that initial setup is starting to already have benefit in our company. If there were item specs or job specs relevant to this job where I'd made some notes around what the client's expectations are, that would be visible as well. And then literally, it's that easy. They come in, start their task. If it's a long task, they can pause for lunch. If it's a multiple day task, they can stop measuring that time and then come back to the next day and log back on. They can set progress so that if it is, let's say it's a 3-day installation and you came in, we're up to day 2, we could set it at 66% so that you've got some visibility. And most importantly, we can complete these tasks from the kiosk mode and move everything forward. Now, obviously, we'll be covering workflow tasks and operations in a very soon upcoming webinar so that you get a really good understanding for what that is. But I just wanted to show you what that looks like so you understand how the team will interact and how easy it is. Quite often people say, oh, I'm not sure, if everyone's going to be able to really get involved with this process. They might be older or just not technologically comfortable and quite used to their happy little pen and paper cheat sheets. That's fine. I think everyone in today's age, no matter their age or technological background, understands how to use a phone and can use Facebook. If you have that level of sort of technological detail, you can manage and operate this. It's really easy. So that's how the team gets involved. This is the functionality areas. It's very, very quick, very fast to set up and good to get people involved. As you can see, there's my notification services coming in, letting me know when I'm being assigned to tasks or things are happening. So there's a lot of internal communication. And then these are some of the optional extras that we're talking about in those role-based permissions. So for example, going back to our original example, you may want someone to view and see your inventory. What that means is, I've got up the top here, currently sitting in stock, I have 22 sheets of melamine. 12 of them are assigned to jobs, which means realistically, I've only actually got 8 sheets. So if one of my team members came up to me and said, hey, there's been a stuff up, I need to grab 10 sheets and recut on a service that's gone wrong, I can easily, quickly, without having to go and annoy a manager or come upstairs and take away from your time. I can very easily go to that store person, have access from that kiosk mode. They can let you know that's not possible. We've only got 8 sheets in stock, even though you can see them there. They're not really there because they are assigned to jobs. You're going to have to create a job alert. and send that through and get a project manager to approve whether we can take those 8 sheets or whether or not they want to order 10 more in. So that's just, a very small example of the many benefits that the kiosk mode can provide. Again, receiving purchase orders and job alerts is a huge one. This is the way the team internally communicates with you when things are happening throughout jobs and manufacturing processes, or even out on site. We'll cover all that at a later one, but I think this gives you a really good indication of the power of that kiosk. Even though it is a smaller licensing fee than the office user, they can still get the information they need to do their job, which is the most important part of the software. And of course, we've got things like recent tasks, completed tasks. So if you have internal jobs they're constantly working on, like sweeping the floor, unpacking trucks, and they need to jump back and forth between these operations, not a problem. It's really easy and quick to do. They can't be logged onto 2 operations at once, so the software will automatically kick them off the last operation. So if I was cutting away on a CNC machine and suddenly I had to stop and then unpack a truck, I don't actually have to stop that task, find the next task, go. I can simply grab recent task, unpack truck, start that. It'll automatically pause me on the previous operation. And then when I finish unpacking the truck, just go back in, keep cutting. Really easy. You can also have multiple people logged onto a job at the same time. So don't feel that you're limited by one task to one person. If you run assembly teams or you've got an install team, they can all log onto the same job and be working away on it. And then they can measure their time, which is very important. We'll go into later for reporting and payroll services, etc. So we're getting really accurate data into our software really easily, but only one person can complete the task and say, yep, this is done. So someone in that team will be in charge of saying, yep, we're now done. No more time can put against this. We're all good to rock and roll. So that's your kiosk mode. A lot of functionality, a lot of ability in there. And again, so long as you are operating with those logins, it's very easy. This doesn't have to be on the phone, although it's one of the easiest places to put it. Like I said, you can go on a tablet or an actual kiosk itself, factory kiosk, or a CNC machine, so long as they have Wi-Fi access or internet access, they're good to go, which is awesome. So I think from there, I want to mention, as always, that just running through these webinars is fantastic. We like to provide as much information as possible for our clients, so you've always got access to tips and tricks on how best to use and set up the software. However, you don't need to go at our pace. At any time, you can jump into the software, all the in-app help documentation, everything I've spoken about today about user roles and staff settings, etc., can be accessed. We've got documentation, we've got videos. Like I said, I highly recommend you subscribe to that YouTube channel, bookmark the docs page, you know what I mean? So you can always quickly access that information. So any of this you want to go over and set up, you don't need to worry about us covering it with you. It's all there at your fingertips, ready to go, which is really cool. And it also means that when new staff are coming on board with your process, as part of their induction, can be learning how to use their part of the software. One last thing I will mention about the roles and permissions is one of the benefits of it is it's not necessarily about, colluding data and, micromanaging. It's a very good way of keeping people focused on an area. So if you have a sales team, for example, they don't really need to see the job management side of things. That's not part of their purview. They just need to see leads, the contact management system, which we looked at today, and estimating. Simply turn off all the job and project information and purchase ordering information. They won't even see it. They can come into the software. We've got a nice, clean template to work with. They only have the areas they need to access. Keeps them focused in that side, which is good. And just so you know, the roles and permissions are set up in such a way that if they do hit an endpoint, which they do not have permission to access, Jobman will alert them and give them the opportunity to come to you as their manager and say, hey, I actually do need to be able to access that area. Is it possible for you to turn that role and permission on for me? And you can say yes or no. Nice and easy, which is good. So that pretty much concludes today's webinar. I certainly hope that you've got enough out of this one. That was a big one. It's a good one. From here on out, they're going to get nice and in depth. They're really good. We get to really dive into the meaty parts of the software now. We've got the fun stuff and the initial quick setup out the way. So I'm really looking forward to the next ones. Make sure you've obviously registered for these webinars. Anyone that was not able to attend today, not a problem. As always, we record these, we'll put them up and we'll send you a link to you and your company. If you have multiple staff people involved in the setup of your software and you really want them to jump in here and gain some benefit from these educations, please do get them to enroll anyway. Even if they're not available at the time slot, it's not a stress. We will send them a copy and they can take that time to watch and review and make sure they understand for their part in either helping you set up the software or continuing to manage and use it. So that's cool. So we've got a little bit of time for Bus Leave. What we'll do is I'll jump into the questions. If you want to run away now, that's not a problem at all. I know everyone's very busy. So thank you very much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time and getting some educational empowerment around the use of your software. I'll jump on some questions and we'll get those answered. But if you do decide to get on with your day, not a problem. I'll thank you now. And we hope you are enjoying the software as much as we enjoy building it. One person clocking into multiple jobs, example, forklift driver, picking multiple color jobs or driving to pick up items and apply these jobs at a cost 2 hours each way. Currently, that is not available. That is a question I have been asked in the past. It's known as batch jobbing. Now, I'm going to tell you the reason why it's not available. Primarily because this is an ERP, our operational mandate is to give you the most accurate data possible. What that means is we really want to move your company away from the concept of cheat sheets and estimations. I want you to have the most accurate data presentable. And in order to do that, we have to set the system up in such a way that we don't use aggregates. So if I'm cutting and I start that operation, it takes 2 minutes and 37 seconds and I hit stop and complete, Jobman will record that 2 minutes and 37 seconds. And that's super important. If I was cutting 10 jobs and I batched them up together and I just sort of hit start and whack them through and run off and then run it through, one job might take 2 minutes and 37 seconds, but the next job may take 17 minutes. When those batch jobs come together, the data you're going to receive is that on average, they all took 15 minutes. And that's not true and accurate. If you've allowed a certain amount of time in a cutting operation or an operation in your business from your quoting, you really want that ability to know that precision data. So that's the first part. That's why we haven't done it up until now, is we need to make sure that our system does its best to protect and benefit our clients. With that said, we understand, like in this perfect example you provided, Daniel, thank you. There are times when we don't really care too much about the actual operational time. We know they're going to do multiple things pretty quick, and it's not so much about the reporting. It's allowing multiple things to get ticked off quickly and provide that aggregate, perhaps for internal servicing or payroll. So yes, it is something we will release in the future with some caveats that it can be quite dangerous. So use that caution, but 100% we are planning on releasing batch jobbing into the software. Is there a way to select or unselect multiple items in user permissions or restore some of the original roles that were included? I don't think there's like a select all function. The administrator role pretty much takes care of the select all functionality. So my recommendation is if you're tweaking roles down, start with that role, copy it, change the name, and then unselect rather than select all. Or from the other end, if you're setting up like a kiosk user functionality and you want to tweak them again, take that kiosk user or factory worker role, copy it, change the name slightly, and then add the couple of tweaks. You'll find we've got some good intermediaries in. There's about 3 levels where it sort of sets most of the settings up. Obviously, because the software is ever evolving, there's more and more settings and role permissions coming in all the time. So it is a little bit tricky then to, how to balance those in with select all functionality. It's not too bad. Again, it's like anything. You set up once, you don't really need to touch it. Maybe once in a blue moon, someone will come through and select those. So it's a very quick and easy way to come in and set those operations up. Mike, can kiosk users take and save photos? Great question, Mike. Currently, the job alerts area is how our staff members can take and save photos. So they can come in, they create an alert. As part of that alert on their phone or tablet, for example, they can save photos. And this is a common way that people use the alerts functionality in the kiosk mode to store data relevant to jobs. When we say alerts, it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. A lot of people use our alerts area for things like installer checklists or dispatch, areas or QC. So you have a template set up as the alert. The kiosk member is in, Jobman automatically picks up the data relevant to the fact that who it is, what time it is, what date it is, links it to the job. They can take a heap of photos as long as you connect it up to your cloud file, and that information that will then be sitting in your software. So that's the short answer. Absolutely, you can do it. We are looking at further development in the future to allow for people to save photos into the shared folder directly for that job. So without having to create an alert, maybe you just want them as part of your process to take a couple of quick pictures and snap it in and have those there sitting there for reference further down the track. So absolutely, we will be allowing that. We just have to be very careful. Anything where we allow more access to your software via things like the kiosk mode become more dangerous to the security of your software. So we're always very mindful of how we build those things. And that's why we started with the job alert system. It's clean, it's protected. We can really look after you, make sure there's only one avenue by which the kiosk can access your data files. So short answer, yep. Long answer, down the track, we'll give you more functionality around that as well. Kiosk mode, can we change job specs? Currently, no, they're not editable. The idea being that by the time a job has reached the team on the ground, those specs should be pretty much locked in place. Like it's a bit too late. we've sort of done the purchase ordering. We've done everything relevant to that job. So we want those specs to be available so that they can access them and see them. Now the flip side to that, of course, is sales teams. A lot of sales companies operate sales teams where they split their sales team from their estimators. Now sales teams themselves don't really need access to the software. They just need to be able to find and manage contacts and run around and go visit the clients. And it would be absolutely awesome if we could give them a way where they could live manage those specs based on permission. So I think, again, that is something we'll probably bring into the software, currently not available, but absolutely I can foresee a need in the market for that to happen. And I'm pretty sure it's already been scoped and thought about. So that's pretty cool. We'll probably separate them into item specs and job specs just so that, again, we've got that security. We don't want people making changes to cover stuff up on the factory floor. Oh no, I changed this and the spec said it was fine because I changed it. So obviously we've got to be mindful of that. But yeah, no, absolutely. I can definitely foresee that being something we handle in the future, which is good. We have 10 subcontractors who do our installations. How to involve or include them. So absolutely, subcontractors are a perfect example of kiosk mode because they're not seeing the rest of your software, and you can set agenda screens to them. This is the perfect use case for that kiosk outside of your operation itself. Is you can, for very cheap, you can give them a license per month that then allows you to send them out jobs. It can be put on their agenda screens, and then of course that time is now being recorded, which is absolutely fantastic. It's really, really good way of measuring that time. They can access things like the job files. You can drop and drag specs in there for them. They can send you alerts when things go wrong rather than annoying you and creating authenticity around those problems, which is really important and really good. Felicity, contact correspondence emails. Do these emails also appear in our own email client? Absolutely. So the point to the Jobman emailing client is it's your user interface. It's you, as you saw when I added staff, a staff member, it's their email. So those emails will go back and forward as per normal in your Outlook or your Gmail, Yahoo, whatever you use. And then Jobman takes what's called copy of that email, and then so long as the email is seeded in Jobman, and what I mean by that is started in Jobman, all correspondence back and forward via your emailing client will appear in Jobman. So that gives you that ability to have that authenticity for the team. So if someone's away, they don't need to go tracking through your personal work email. They can just jump on a Jobman. Oh yeah, where's the conversation up to? Here's where we're at. Okay, I can handle that. And it also means that we don't bring in historic data. So you don't connect to Jobman, connect up your contacts, for example, and bring them in, and then have 30 years of emailing data follow it in. We certainly don't want that to happen. It's only emails that are seeded in the contact area, lead area, and job area that will do that. But you can do internal email services as well, and there's a lot of other areas in the software we will do that. The primary advantage of that, outside of transparency, is if you run projects and you have emails, a chain set up in Jobman that's been covering the contact side, and then when it becomes the lead side and the job side, if you then go into your Outlook at the end of the project and archive all that information or toss it in a folder or delete it, the copies are still sitting in Jobman. So you still have that historic ability to come back and view that data, which is absolutely fantastic. So yeah, it's a really, really good service. We have other emailing clients built in the software as well for I think quote accept the comment decline, which is something we'll cover in the future, which is a big one, and also areas around purchase ordering and invoicing. So really cool. All right, looks like we've got most of the questions on the run there, which is good. Is there any more anyone can think of? That was a good run of questions. Yeah, that's good. I'm glad everyone's on it, seeing what's going on, which is very helpful. But if not, I think what we'll do is we'll leave it there. That's been a great session today. I hope you've certainly got plenty out of it. Thank you all again for your time. I really do appreciate it. And thanks, Jess. I love doing these as well. So thank you. As always, the help is there. It's in the software. You can access us and the documentation and YouTube's at all times. So don't feel like you've got to wait around for these webinars. You can get into it at any point, but we certainly do help these add an extra layer of understanding. And as much as possible, we want to be able to provide you with a structured learning process, as well as offer some tips and tricks from some common questions. And these are the sort of things we love, and we can review those questions now and update our documentation so everybody knows what's going on, which is awesome. So thank you very much. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next one. Cheers.